Well, for more on this, I'm joined by the Global Affairs Analyst, Marco Vicenzino. Marco, lots of complicated talk over the past couple of weeks. And still, although a draft has been agreed, a lot of people don't really know what are the main measures being taken from this summit.
This is an historic agreement. It involves nearly 200 countries, and it's the first time that everyone commits to cuts in emissions. The key points, there are several points, but I say the key ones are in terms of the temperature target that all nations agree to keep below the 2% Celsius rate in terms of increasing in temperature, below the 2% Celsius with the aim of achieving 1.5. Secondly, and particularly and most importantly for developing nations, is securing a $100 billion fund starting in 2020, whereby developed nations have to fund developing nations in order to get them off of fossil fuels and push them more towards effective green technology for their development. And above all, there's a common agreement. They're striving to try to create a decarbonized world by the second half of the 21st century.
There have been a lot of cynics. A lot of people have even been taking out to the streets of Paris to protest, saying clearly it's not enough. A lot of cynics are also saying that, the old world powers have, gained all the benefits from using all these fuels, and that poorer nations are going to suffer and have got the wrong end of the bargaining stick with this deal.
That specific element, the $100 billion annually, $100 billion commitment by developing nations, the purpose of that is to seek and address that specific agreement. But obviously, it's promising one thing and delivering is something else. That's the most difficult part of this deal, is the next step, which is implementation. And if they fail to come up with that money starting in 2020, the cynics will have been justified.
What about big carbon footprinters like China? We know their smog pollution level was raised to its highest alert, to a red alert last week. People are really struggling to walk on the streets there. What have they agreed to? China
is participating directly, has come on board. It's had its reservations, and it's the largest emitter worldwide, more than the United States, probably 25% of global emissions. But one needs to give credit also to the Chinese, because in recent years they've been the country that's been spending most money to combat emissions. Obviously, the self-interest is the health of their own people, and it's their own long-term economic benefit. So they've been on the cutting edge, and I'd say although they may have not walked off happily and completely, I think for the most part they cannot fail. They have to address this issue, because as a rising global power, they want to be seen as a legitimate, responsible power, and had they refused to participate in this, it would have done great damage to them in the short term and also in the long term.
Very quickly and lastly, Marco, what about down to the people level? Me and you, I know we turned off our lights in the houses now when we're not in certain rooms. We have to pay for plastic bags so they're not overused. What kind of effects are we going to see day to day?
More changing of habits and constant changing of habits. What you've described and even more. And beyond that, it's going to require a transformation, cultural, political, and economic transformation across all these spectrums over a period of time. It's a new world that we have to adapt to.
Thank you, Marco Vicenzino.
Thank you.